This is Gears of War. We're on Xbox Series X. Yes, this is the original iconic release within the series. And we did just recently check out Ultimate Edition, which I do think is a better version of this game. Keep that in mind when you're taking a look at this. Some individuals suggested that we take a look at what the original version looked like, and I was like, yeah, you know what, okay, cool. Because this actually was something that I looked at on Series X a long time ago, but didn't really jump into, but now's the time. So on, Xbox Series X, this is the original version. We do get a bit of a boosted res here, obviously. It's a little bit cleaner, but at the same time, it is very rough around the edges. It's very jaggedy in certain parts. I mean, some of it does hold up quite well, but, at the same time, it's not necessarily a huge boost. That being said, we do get a perfect frame rate here with a 30 FPS, which, obviously isn't hugely fluid, but, it's still pretty decent. Well, we're going to go right to combat because, well, we know what we're doing in Gears of War. But yeah, this is the original version, and it does actually look really clean, and it does look pretty good for its age. It does not support auto HDR, which was a little bit disappointing, and I think a little bit perplexing at the same time. But I suppose the way that the lighting was implemented, they didn't want to do that. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Anyways, those are cog tags. I guess I don't have any progress that carried over or something like that, or it's a new save or something. I have, I think, all of the achievements on here except for Seriously. So, yeah, I definitely have played my fair share of Gears of War, especially this original version of the game. I absolutely love this. This is actually the reason why I bought a 360 back in the day. This was like the selling point. All I did was want to play Halo 2, and then my friend was like, hey, well, check out this game, and, it chainsawed me in the back, and I was like, whoa, and yeah, this was kind of the selling point, I guess, and then from there, it's history of playing all of the different, Xbox games over the years and stuff like that. Definitely fascinating how little events like that can kind of really shape what you do over time. But yes, so this is Gears of War. This is the original version. This was a big deal back then. It really really pushed for the creation of the cover-based third-person shooter. That is obviously a lot more popular today. There are a few difficulty options. I think we're on the easiest one because I want it to look even better than usual, but I've done the grind on the insanity and everything. Well, it's not insanity, it's called insane, but it kind of is pure insanity if you think about it to play that mode. Anyways, it's a game you can play alone, or you play in two-player co-op. You can play online, or you can play by yourself. Well, or you can play locally, I guess is what I was trying to get to, but totally got swayed off there. So you can play single player, you can do co-op, two players, locally or online. They got split screens, pretty cool. And you can work through this really excellent, incredible campaign. There's also a multiplayer component that I don't think we're going to be able to show. I'm going to have to do like some kind of split screen in order to present that, but yeah, the multiplayer was really where it was at in this one. Yeah, I know about reviving. Jeez. Anyways, like I was saying, there's a huge multiplayer component that really was like a big deal back in the day. It was like some of the earliest like map packs I remember ever there being for a game. It was very interesting to see those ones become available. And I just played a ton of the multiplayer in this one. Every battle was epic. Every battle was intense. I used to do like 19-round war zones. And I think we really got into Annex when it came out because I love Annex. I'm actually bigger on Annex than I am even on King of the Hill and stuff, which is the mode that seems to have survived. Although I did like Blitz quite a bit too when they had that one. But yeah, this game is just absolutely a legendary title, a legendary release, and one truly iconic entry within, the Xbox lineup, really. This series largely defined the 360 era, at least I think so, the original trilogy there. And then obviously things were a little bit different over the Xbox One. We got some really, actually I'd say benchmark visual releases from the efforts on the Xbox One platform when it came to the Gears of War titles, when the series continued. And obviously Ultimate Edition, which again, I want to mention Ultimate Edition is the one you should be checking out. We're doing this purely for, I guess you could say the technical showcase of what this one looks like, how it plays, which is wonderful. It does play quite wonderful, which was expected. I think this was like the first backwards compatible game that I was able to play on Xbox One during like the testing period way back when. So this was actually kind of a big deal. This is what they were testing, and I was like, wow, you can play Xbox One games on here? It was a huge thing, because we were told for so long that, you can't do it. So it's neat to see this iconic title be playable, to see it all these years later, and then also see Ultimate Edition. And yeah, it's just an incredible game. I think it actually might be worthwhile if you've never seen the original version to actually take a look at it. Because unlike, the Halo titles where you can swap back and forth, you can't really do that with Ultimate Edition. Which I guess is a bit of a shame, because you don't get to see this original look of the game. Because it does have a very distinct, gritty, grim, dark situation as you're joined, Delta team here. Carmine!
Marcus Fenix, the one who fought at Aspfield
Yep.
Fields? Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, Marcus Fenix, you got Dom, there's Kim over there on the left, that's Carmine. And then, of course, you've got the other iconic characters, Cole Train, you've got Baird, and then there's, like, Hoffman's here, too. And, it's just a really, really well-done game in terms of the narrative, the scope of the game, the story, the different acts and chapters you work within, the big battle up against Raam there, which was fantastic. Raam! Yep.
Looks to me like you need all the help you can get.
It's true, the Locusts are winning. They do, like, it's really jaggedy though, like you can tell. It hides it pretty well, but it definitely is quite rough around the edges. Especially in comparison to Ultimate Edition, where everything's so, like, cleaned up and higher res. There's Anya. What? And now the battle begins. Yeah, it's really such a game that I played so many hours on. Whether I was, doing story content with people, battling the corpse, or going online and playing multiplayer with friends or randoms. Although with friends it was kind of impossible, so it was mostly just random people online, but it was still fun. It had so many memorable moments to it, and it's still technically, for its time, an impressive game. It's actually why the 360 even had, like, I think they increased the RAM capacity, the memory capacity, just based on what this game needed. And I think that's kind of a fascinating history piece there, because this really did impact the future of the Xbox console. It really defined largely what that generation was like and set the standard for, like, massively insane games from its era. It was the starting point. And it was a lot of fun. Can we skip this along here so we get going into the action? But such a great game. The iconic chainsaw. So many memorable moments. Active reloads, of course. And then the excitement along the way as you're battling within this group. And then seeing the trilogy kind of go along. So well done. Obviously the collectibles, which I mentioned earlier, if you want to work towards gathering those. But it's so neat to see this game in action all these years later. And, still thinking that it's definitely worth playing, because it really is still an incredible experience. They did such a good job on this. I'm gonna blow myself up. Nope. Let me chainsaw. Let me chainsaw. Yeah. Definitely giving me a hard. Why the hate here? There we go. That's what I'm talking about. And the 360 chainsaw was always the best. Great sense of scale, though. Such a groundbreaking title, and I think we're going to try to show off the multiplayer here as best as possible. Just keep in mind that it's going to be very hard to do, because I'm going to have to do the split screen, I imagine, in order to even set up a match, but let's get rolling. Even though this one had players jumping into it for like years after its prime, which I think is super impressive if you think about it. The fact that it had such support for so long, but eventually, games, when they're not thrown in bundles, they're not combined, the scope and the multiplayer of it just kind of dwindles down, and that's just inevitable. That's how gaming goes. You don't think about it until years have passed and you're playing something else and you're like, Oh yeah, I wonder if anybody still plays that, and, you know, that's kind of, I guess, where this Gears is eventually ended up, which just, you know, makes sense. So this is the multiplayer, which I again had to throw onto split screen. But it does look pretty good. I like the fact that it actually takes up the whole screen. Now, if you checked out my, you know, Gears of War Ultimate Edition video, smoke. You know, I like the split screen has like these black bars around the edges, so you can't actually like, you know, really see the full screen of it. Whereas this one actually does take up the full screen, which is fantastic. But yeah, I usually played as like Carmine here. Wow, it feels so weird playing with a. I have an Xbox One controller plugged in, and it's like not as ergo friendly as the, you know, the Series X controller is. That's for sure. It's weird. It's the same feeling I get when I go from, or when I went from playing on 360 to Xbox One. The controller changes are just massive. You don't even think about it. Great. So we're going in here after that sneeze-tastic moment. But yeah, it was just kind of like really gory, really violent, and it felt super competitive where anything could happen. And then there was this element of like the host being something that was like more powerful because their connection or something. I wonder if that was ever really proven to be 100% accurate or not. And yeah, that's kind of funny to think about all these years later, the host abilities. And, you know, their hosts, they're obviously better. It's kind of funny. But yeah, it just offered, you know, such unique elements of play, so many surprising moments. It was just aggressive, hostile, intense gripping, and really just brooding, I think, was the main thing. There wasn't really too many games like this, competitive multiplayer-wise, and you had to really be, I want to say, kind of gifted with certain weapons, or practice a lot, because it wasn't easy to use certain tools or abilities, or, well, I guess they're not abilities or tools, but, you know, to use all the different weapons, it actually took a lot of practice and a lot of skill, and a little bit of luck, too, because it wasn't necessarily easy to pull all that off, and it definitely, you know, I think took a lot of talent, but it was so intense, constantly playing multiplayer with people online. I remember just the most aggressive games, and, you know, online multiplayer really isn't like that anymore, at least not from what I've seen. So it takes me back to a very simpler time, for sure. And so many memories of like people like glitching outside of maps and stuff like that. It was just kind of nuts. But I think we'll pop over to one more level, obviously. Gridlock you have to show because it's just absolutely iconic in its first presentation here. Oh, there's a house over there. Low polygon. So this is Garden. I really loved this map. It was so cool and so fun and so weird. And then there's like this element of like the gases in these places, like a greenhouse thing. It's hilarious because it can like kill you. And then I remember so many moments of taking the Hammer of Dawn and kind of like camping in the spawn when all my teammates have been killed. I don't know if it's really camping. I guess it's kind of sitting back and trying not to die because, well, your team's all dead. You know, Warzone, it's like round based. When everybody's dead, it's kind of like you only get one life, right? So you just unleash the Hammer of Dawn, and the Hammer of Dawn was infinite, right? Like there's no bit of, oh, you're running out of power or anything. Yeah, the Hammer of Dawn is, when it works, it's glorious. That's for sure. But it wasn't the easiest weapon to use, but boy, was it amazing. I don't know, but anyways, I think that about sums it up. You know, that's Gears of War, the original game that started it all off. It's amazing to sit here all these years later, especially since I do, you know, fondly remember actually actively playing the game for a long time, for years. And I didn't think that it would ever end, or that it would ever like be continued or changed. You know, you never think about those things when the games are out. You're just playing them. You're just having fun, especially at the age I was. And then, you know, later on we see Gears 2, 3, 4, 5 spin-offs, you know, Judgment, everything, Tactics. It's incredible to see how the series has changed and grown over the years, and how I've changed and grown over the years too. It's kind of, yeah, it's interesting. It definitely is, and that's why Gears of War is kind of a special game. So I am happy to show this one off, give you a presentation of it, even though it's not at its full strength due to the fact that you can't find others online to compete with. But still, definitely memorable. And don't do that run shotgun thingy. I always hated that.